Hi guys, it's Vanna, and thank you so much for watching. I've been working on a lot of secret swaps and collabs, as most of you know, so I've been struggling to have things to post. I wanted to make a pretty simple doll that I could work on in between the other ones, and I wanted to make this character for a long time. She is a very minor character from Cartoon Fredinator's Bee and Puppycat. She doesn't have a name, but is the mother of a side character, Cardamon, who is a little boy that Bee knows. I think he's like the landlord or something. Since the mother does not have a name, I've seen tags with things like cardamom, which is actually a kind of Indian spice, but I still think it's a pretty funny pun, and I'm just going to refer to the doll as cardamom from now on. When I first saw this doll, I was just so obsessed with the character. She's so simple, but gorgeous, and really sad because she's forever sleeping. I decided to use this Ashlyn Ella doll from my stock box, who for some reason is wearing a Rosabella Beauty outfit. I cut off her hair and took her factory paint off with 100% acetone. My preferred method of removing the head is to heat the plastic with a hairdryer. When it is soft and pliable, I pop it off to scrape out the hair plugs and glue. I liked the round Ever After High face for Cardamom, and the skin color was almost perfect. Because Cardamom's hair is so long, I wanted to use synthetic hair. I found this gorgeous nylon hair called Whisper from the Doll Planet Hair from Etsy, which I'll link down in the description below. I think that this was my best reroute yet. Every time I get better and better, guys. Once the head is completely plugged, I squeezed some glue inside and swirled it around with a stick to make sure all the plugs were covered and stable. Next is the face up. I think one of the reasons I wanted to make Cardamom is because I wanted to try a sleeping doll. This is when the Ever After High face mold actually came in handy because there aren't distinct eye molds, unlike a lot of Monster High dolls. After 2 layers of Mr. Super Clear to prep the doll, I first go in with watercolor pencils to sketch out the closed eye shape. I had a little trouble drawing the lashes because I wanted them to be soft yet defined at the same time. Cardamom has such a serene expression, so I really wanted to portray that through being very careful with the eyebrow shape, especially since I couldn't really get much expression with her eye shape. I used a lot of pink pastels to add blush and eyeshadow to her face. I built up the lashes with some darker purples and indigos and decided to give her a pursed, slightly open mouth just to give her a little bit more character. I didn't want to go too crazy, but I knew that my micro glitter, it really doesn't show up too well after it's been sprayed with MSC, so I decided to add it anyway for a subtle glittery effect on the eyelids. After some gloss to the lips, it was time to free her hair from its cloth prison. Another first for me with this doll was working with resin. I got some simple UV resin from Amazon and dabbed it onto her face as tears, which those of you who have watched Bee and Puppycat would know why. It was difficult to work with because I don't have a UV light, so the sun was what I had, but the tears were dripping faster than they could dry. But after about 2 layers and sticking her in a super sunny patch on my bed, Cardamom was successfully crying. Which, now that I say, sounds like a really sad accomplishment. Guys, Guys, I struggled putting the head back on the body. I think that I used too much glue inside the head to secure the hair plugs, which meant that the neck peg didn't have enough room. But with my handy dandy hairdryer, I made it work. Next was curling the doll hair with straws. I made sure to separate the part as well at this time. The nylon hair was so soft and slippery that this took way too long, and I was super frustrated while doing it. It was kind of a horrible process that I'm not too keen on doing again. I didn't have enough bobby pins to secure the hair on the straws, so I unfolded some paper clips, which didn't work so hot. I was bound and determined though, and I was able to wrangle everything into submission, enough to pour boiling water over it, and then cold water to set the curls. After letting it dry overnight, I was able to take out the straws and pull apart the curls for soft wavy hair. It's a good thing that I didn't want tight ringlets, because I didn't get that after taking the straws out. When I was working with some pieces that had fallen out of the straws, I discovered that if I just wrapped the nylon around a paintbrush and then I applied heat with my straightener, which is exactly what I do with my yarn weft hair, it had a very similar effect to the straws. So I think next time I want wavy hair, I'm just going to use my paintbrush technique and not deal with this whole straw process. But after a trim, the hair was done. For her dress, it was a super simple strapless piece. So I ripped apart an old dress to make a pattern. The fabric I used was a type of sheer-ish cotton, I believe. When I sewed the dress up, the heart collar shape was not as pronounced as I wanted, so I simply took some white thread and gathered it in the middle to get that nice dip that I wanted. I also did not fit the dress completely right in the back, so I decided to take some pink embroidery floss and give her a little lace backup, which was a really pretty detail. I really liked how it turned out, but unfortunately you can't really see it due to her massive amount of hair. I still felt like the dress was pretty plain, so I wanted to embroider some flowers to the bottom of the dress, a little off center for an asymmetrical type of hem. Do I know how to embroider? Not really. I just kind of winged it. I used to be super into counted cross-stitch pieces, and I used to do that a lot, but that's really the extent of my embroidery talent. I just used some pinks and purples to make leaves and flowers and some, I think they're called French knots. But regardless, I really like these added little details. I think they really brought the piece together. Cardamom has this little vial around her neck. So I took one of the tiny glass bottles that I had for Ranny, the April Showers witch, which I actually think I originally bought for this doll and then decided to use one for one of Ranny's potions. But anyway, I made a little funnel out of a scrap of paper and filled the vial about halfway with purple micro glitter. I took a random piece of chain that I had and secured it to the vial in order to create a necklace. In addition to the plates of candy that her son brings her, Cardamom is surrounded by origami pieces such as flowers and cranes and most notably her crown. The paper I used was scrapbook paper, so it was a little bit too thick, but it worked well enough to make her son's gifts. It took a few tries and a few different Pinterest tutorials, but I was finally able to figure out what type of origami crown Cardamom had. I also made a paper crane and lots of butterflies, as well as just freehanding some flowers. It was hard working on such a tiny level, especially with paper that was a little bit too thick. But in the end, I secured the crown to the head with 2 pins that actually stuck into her scalp, so the crown can be easily removed and you cannot see the pins. And with that, Cardamom is done. This was such a nice break from my secret projects that I've been doing. It was nice to work on something that was purely for myself, and I do really love how she turned out. Yet another purple-haired doll, because I have a problem with those. Cardamom is actually for sale. You can send me a DM on Instagram at FantasyFinder if you're interested. You can also keep up with my whips and other shenanigans on my Instagram story. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe. Have a phenomenal day and keep being extraordinary. Bye!